Today's session, Third Space Professionals and Collaboration Champions, is being presented by our colleagues from the Office of Academic Support and Instructional Services, otherwise known as OASIS. Today's session is part of the National Faculty Meeting Breakout Series sessions. On the line today, we have three fabulous colleagues. We have Kimberly Burton, Dr. Heidi Marshall, and Susan Stekel, all from OASIS. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Kimberly Burton, and she can kick things off. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you, Lita. Thank you for having us, and thank you everyone for coming. As Lita mentioned, my name is Kim Burton. I am a reference and instruction librarian here at OASIS. And with me, I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Heidi Marshall. I've been with Walden for quite some time in a variety of roles, but currently serve as the program lead and core faculty for the OASIS, what previously was known as our CAEX program. We have a number of support courses and workshops that we offer our students.
And hi, I'm Susan Stekel. I am a lead librarian. I've been in the library with Walden for going on 12 years now. And in OASIS since we formed last year by bringing the Writing Center, Academic Skills Center, and librarians all together into this one office. So looking forward to talking with you today.
Thanks. So today we're going to be talking about third space professionals, and we're going to start off with the origins of third space and its evolution into higher education. We're going to talk a little bit about non-traditional students and third space professionals and how they are meeting the needs of those students and how they're the operational fit in higher education. And then we're going to talk a little bit about third space and Walden, specifically the third space professionals in OASIS. And finally, we have a little interactive portion of our presentation. We have three students, an undergrad, a master's, and a doctoral student. And you get to choose which one you would like to see first through their journey at Walden and how third space professionals assist in their success. You will see all three of them, but you'll get to choose the order that we do them in. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Heidi.
Great, thank you, Kim. So as Kim mentioned, we're going to be starting our conversation sort of by taking a step back or a step out from this concept of third space in higher education context, and talk a little bit about where researchers who do a lot of research on academic third spaces and what we call third space professionals, where their sort of thinking has stemmed from. And it does originate with third space theory, which purports that when you have two cultures that come together, and primarily when there's a culture that comes together with an oppressing or an authority culture, particularly in a post-colonial context, that sort of submissive culture will often work to navigate culture, to create new identity, really just with the sole purpose of trying to survive, and not just survive, but thrive in their new setting. But those spaces can be what is called, or what Whitchurch calls it, fraught with ambiguities. And they often form at what we call liminal spaces in points in our history, our culture, and in our society. So in a higher education context, you might think of a liminal space, for example, of a non-traditional student starting an online degree program, right? They are on the precipice of something that is unknown. And for a lot of our non-traditional students, they are coming in with their own cultures, and they're suddenly thrust into the authority culture of higher education. When we think about third space professionals, we reside as sort of up against an authoritarian culture. When we think about ourselves as credentialed professionals with a lot of years of expertise in our field, but sometimes we don't carry, for example, the same weight or influence over governance at an institution or administration, because we don't fall within those traditional streams, those sort of more authority-laden streams of higher education. So, for example, the professorate or your administration stream. And so the third space professionals, we really exist in this in-between space that can be a bit ambiguous, but can also be really wonderful and can create a lot of safe space for those students who are themselves navigating on that liminal space and feeling very uncertain and perhaps ambiguous about the journey ahead of them. So what we do as third space professionals, having gone through that navigation ourselves to create these third spaces, is we can bring students into these spaces to help them feel more comfortable, to make sure that they are able to navigate that culture of higher education, something that can feel like an authority, right? That there is a right way to do things, there's a wrong way to do things. Students can feel very uncertain about that. So we think about, third space theory. Again, we just wanted to give a little bit of a background there, step back, but we are today, and Kim, if you want to advance to the next slide, really going to be talking about third space in the context of higher education and academia. And really recognizing that for those of us who work in the third space as third space professionals, we are often blurring and even pushing boundaries, I would say, within our organizational structure, but also within the broader structure of higher education. I think Walden itself often pushes boundaries because we are a non-traditional entity in the world of higher education. And that can be really great, but even within our own structure, right, we do have traditional streams here. And there are those of us, OASIS itself, and I think it's such an aptly named department because we are sort of floating in this in-betweenness at Walden between the navigating, not just, policy and innovation and creativity between those traditional streams of the professorate and the administration. But again, we're bringing students into that space with us to co-create. What does it mean? What are the identities that are forming in this third space that we have created? We can go on to the next slide. Yeah, so again, the academic third spaces, they can be created and those identities developed by us, those third space professionals, but they are also often developed by students themselves. And they are developed by those who are in a liminal space, right, at that entry to something that is a bit unknown. Or maybe largely unknown, and can be fraught with ambiguity, as we mentioned. Also bringing in that, sort of a more tangible reaction, right? Our students can have a lot of fear and anxiety that can manifest in defensiveness or confusion, even letting their grades slip up, procrastination, because they're not sure. When they're unsure of what's expected of them, it can be hard to move forward. But when this happens, especially in the student realm, we can start to see groups of people come together to form a new identity. So when you're in that liminal space, what happens, right? We seek out community. We seek out others who are in that same space and going through that same process. And so what we're really aiming to do in OASIS is to think about, how can we, again, come to those spaces, those in-between spaces, and Kim's going to talk about that a bit more, those in-between spaces where both we as third space professionals and students are residing to try to create that sense of community, that new sense of identity, and really a broader sense of belonging here at the institution. To help them navigate through that, and I don't want to necessarily continue to call it an authoritative culture, but really just that idea that there is in higher education and academia, right? There's a way to speak, there's a way to write, there's a way to comport yourself as a student, and that can be a great unknown. And so really seeing ourselves as guides and navigators for students into those spaces. Go forward.
All right, so thank you so much, Heidi. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about non-traditional students and the third space professionals in higher education. Research has shown that non-traditional students succeed with retention, grades, and work-life balance when they have a few things. One of those things are transitional courses. Some of the biggest challenges reported by non-traditional students include adjusting to the classroom after some time off, including maybe multiple years off, and also transitioning from the classroom into the career they are preparing to enter. Transitional, supplemental, and remedial courses have been very successful in meeting these needs. Non-traditional students also want differentiated instruction, meeting the needs of different types of learners and those at different comprehension levels. Creativity plays a very vital role here for the student success. They also want access to school resources that fit their needs and their schedules. So that means 24-hour access. They need to get to the information when they need it. When they're midnight, they're at the library, they've just had a busy day at work, they have a busy day tomorrow at work. They want the resources then, but they also need to know where to go to get those resources and even what resources are available for them. So third space professionals in higher education are assisting in all of these ways. We are taking them from students to lifelong learners. We're bridging the gap between work-life balance, retention, and academic success. The online learning environment is a space where third space professionals thrive. This virtual space creates a very complex area where social interaction and technology collide. And sometimes it's hard to navigate. So this is an environment for collaboration between course developers, faculty, and third space professionals. I also want to mention that advances in digital technology and the needs that arose during and after COVID have created a very competitive atmosphere in online education. Universities are competing to provide high quality, fully flexible, and innovative online offerings that allow them to stand out from their competitors and meet non-traditional and global audiences, and to meet them timely and effectively. And many universities have found that these collaborations between third space professionals, administration, and faculty have improved student satisfaction. They were getting an overwhelmingly positive student evaluation ratings. They were seeing lower attrition and an increase in enrollment. So the operational fit for third space professionals is basically filling the gaps. We see a lot of hyper specialization in higher education. The more focused we become on our areas of expertise or interest, or even just filling the requirements of our roles within a university, the more we can move away from other departments or pieces of the puzzle that complete the whole picture in higher education. And this can create funnels that stifle creativity and create gaps where there needs to be collaboration. That is what we are doing. We are filling these gaps between faculty, between administration, and students. We can help improve the communication between the interested parties in higher education. We can provide a critical and indispensable input, and we want you to think of us as your collaboration champions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Susan.
Thanks, Kim. So third space professionals at Walden, and specifically, I want to talk a little bit about us in OASIS. We are certainly not the only professional academic staff that could be identified as sort of third space professionals at Walden, but we are a significant portion of them. OASIS, as a reminder for everyone out there, was formed last year when we brought together the writing experts, academic skill experts, and library experts all together into one office. And this has been a really very positive development for us. It's allowing us to collaborate together and think more holistically about the kind of skill support that our Walden students need. And so now, a year into the game, we're getting really good at working together. We have organized ourselves around degree level teams so that we can think about what the needs of an undergraduate student, a master's student, a doctoral student are, and how we want to use our content and our skills and our instruction to support those needs. So again, writing, library, academic skill people all brought together in the Office of Academic Support and Instruction Services, or OASIS. And in these roles, we interact with students in various one-to-one services, whether that's providing paper reviews or responding to questions through Ask a Librarian or Ask OASIS, or providing live instruction, for example, at residencies. And in these interactions with students, we find that students really see us as a safe space to ask questions that they might not want to, ask of their instructor. They're very cautious about showing vulnerability or, admitting when they don't know something or don't fully understand something, or simply, trying to internalize a new academic culture. But asking a librarian or asking a writing instructor is much less intimidating, and they're a lot more willing to be vulnerable to us and to get the kind of information and support that they need. And that in turn gives us a really unique insight into what students need, and especially the pain points that they encounter as they are moving through the Walden experience for them, whether it's a particular assignment in a course that is proving confusing to more students than you might expect, or just a skill that we see a lot of students coming in, that they have not mastered yet, and we need them to get up to speed so that they can be successful at, say, the master's level or the doctoral level. So having all of this kind of insight from this one-to-one interaction with students really gives us valuable information for collaborating with the rest of Walden, whether that's in course development with programs and with faculty, developing instruction content, or simply providing insights into the overall student experience. This is incredibly valuable information that we collect and that we really want to make available and want to use, again, in collaborating with all of our fellow Walden partners. Okay, so we have developed some student journeys to illustrate the kind of support that we can offer to the various students here at Walden. Again, whether at the undergraduate, the master's, or a doctoral level, we'll talk about some of the needs that these students have and how we can support them, and hopefully prompt some ways for you to think too about how we can collaborate with you in supporting these students. So we will let you go ahead and tell us which one you'd like to see first. Again, we should have time to go through all three. But feel free to type in chat or unmute if you have a strong preference for who you'd like to journey with first off. Vote for doctoral? Okay, why don't we go ahead and start with doctoral. Heidi?
Great. All right. And Carrie, don't worry, we'll definitely have time to get to all three. So, all right, so here is our doctoral student profile. This is Jada. She is a mother of three, a wife, active community member. Currently working as a middle school counselor, but pursuing a professional doctoral degree because she'd like to advance her career. Whoops, whoa, there we go. We went through that journey very fast. However, I mean, like many students, I think Jada's coming into her degree program, not having had the best of experiences in her previous educational endeavors. She has, because of those experiences, what we call low levels of self-efficacy for her writing and her research skills. So she doesn't have a strong belief in herself. But she does have that passion. So she knows what she wants to research, right? She's like many of our students coming in because they are impassioned and empowered to make improvements in their current state, workplace or in their current community. I think a lot of our students are here because they're really driven by that mission for social change, but feeling a bit underprepared to start her degree. So one approach that we're looking to take in OASIS is understanding this journey of a student's lifespan and how we can support students throughout that journey. And so there have been several folks within OASIS who are working on journey maps for students. So figuring out, what is it that we really expect of students when they come into their program, and how does that evolve as they go through? And then what are those expectations or those standards that they need to meet by the time they leave their doctoral program? And so here are just a few of the professional doctoral standards, which was a collaborative effort bringing those together. So not just folks in OASIS, but across our doctoral programs, right? And so we know that by the time Jada leaves her program, she'll need to be able to write with cohesion and flow, She'll have to reflect scholarly academic English, mastery of APA, and that she'll need to have application of theory and research, that she'll be able to articulate implications for social change. And again, these are just a few of those standards. Right, but how do we get Jada from where she is right now, which is exhibiting fairly low levels of self-efficacy for her work? And when students have low self-efficacy, and also especially if it's coupled with low self-regulation, which means they don't necessarily know or how can self-regulate, looking for support, being able to self-assess, to reflect and think critically, okay, because I got a low grade in this course, maybe I need to proactively seek out some sources. So when a student comes in, again, it's with that coupled low self-efficacy, low self-regulation, they can't necessarily get themselves to those standards on their own, right? Going through the coursework and going through the curriculum is never going to be enough, because nothing is going to prompt Jada necessarily to work and to do the work needed to advance her skill set. She'll advance her knowledge, absolutely, but advancing skills requires the marrying or the convergence of knowledge plus experience plus formal training. So you need to have all three of those in order to actually advance and develop your skill sets. So she has the formal training. She is advancing that knowledge as she goes through her coursework. But where are the other ones coming in, right? The practice that's needed in order to advance those skills, the particular sort of practical skill training that she might need, that, you know, we want to bake that into the curriculum. I think we are making some great efforts to bake that in to the curriculum, but there's always going to need to be, there's always going to be a need for us, the third space professionals, to collaborate with those in the classroom, and even come ourselves sort of intrusively into the classroom to help students like Jada advance those skill sets. And so that's the in-between, right? So what can Jada do in the in-between as she's an enrolled student, right? And we're really making sure that, and I think, Will, you mentioned this in the chat, right, about our courses, right? We're not talking about traditional remedial courses where students stop their degree progress, they have to take a course before they can advance, right? What we're talking about is integration into the curriculum, making sure that as OASIS third space professionals, we're there to be with the student throughout that journey and to help build those skills throughout that journey. So Kim, next slide. Right, so what might this look like, right? So what can Jada take advantage of from an OASIS perspective in the third space? You know, what third spaces exist for her in order to get from that point of low self-efficacy to meeting those doc writings, and just not just the writing standards, but all of the doctoral standards and outcomes that she's going to need to reach. You know, very early on, OASIS oversees our WOW, so the Walden Orientation and Welcome. We do have, for many of our doctoral students, our formal doctoral writing assessment, which then comes coupled with interventions to help support students, both instructor-led as well as some self-paced versions. We have writing courses that students can self-select into. We have one-on-one tutoring, for example, our paper reviews with librarians, other types of tutoring exist in the library instruction. And that tutoring, you know, carries through, right? There's no point at which it is not offered to students during their coursework and during that journey. In the middle terms, we do have more advanced courses that students can progress into. And we do, when students start, you know, what are currently called our CAEX courses, although that prefix will be changing as we go into the fall. So it's because CAEX itself is a bit outdated. So that will be a more obvious set of skill courses for students. So those do advance as students go through their doctoral programs. And I'm sure Kim and Susan can speak, right, that the type of appointments that you would have with the library or with a writing instructor, right, those skill sets are also scaffolded and increased as students go through their degree program. So it's not necessarily a one size fits all. It is very customized support for students. It's all about meeting students where they are and making sure that students are connected to those resources that are available as they go through that journey. So, you know, whereas a lot of institutions, you might see that there's help when you first come in, and that help kind of peters out as you go through. I think at OASIS, we make a real intentional effort for that not to be the case, that whatever students have access to when they come in, they continue to have access to that. And how is Jada connected with these resources? There's a number of ways, right? Our Ask OASIS is a great way to for students to funnel themselves in. But I think, one reason we wanted to bring this presentation to NFM is that it also requires a true partnership with our faculty. Having instructors understand what is OASIS, what can these professionals within OASIS offer students, knowing who to contact within OASIS. If you do have a student, knowing that you can reach out to us, right? You can send me, Kim, Susan, an email at any given time. And even if we can't directly help the student, we will absolutely get that student to who can help them or what resource they do need. So if they're having trouble navigating the OASIS website, right, that there is 24-hour access to all of the content that those self-directed resources, particularly, students can access those at any point in time, and across a variety of delivery models, right? They can be at a desktop computer, they can be on their cell phone, they can have access to those resources.
Heidi, while we're on doctoral, Will brought up a question in chat about the doctoral writing assessment, whether that's still a thing, and it is. And in fact, it's being piloted. I believe it's the management program is looking at a pilot to incorporate it into early coursework. So yeah, we're still very interested in having writing assessment and in looking at ways that we can, again, identify potential writing needs for students and work with them to provide that in a timely way. Heidi, anything else you wanted to say about that?
Well, I will say, yeah, so the doctoral writing assessment, it is going through some evolution, I will say. So for most programs, it is looking and operating and functioning the way that it has for quite some time, where students are placed into a course shell, they complete a writing assessment, assessors come in, and they're scored on a rubric. We do have, as Susan mentioned, a pilot running with our PhD management program right now, where that assessment has moved into their foundations course. It'll still have outside there. It's a week 4 assignment that the students, their course instructor will grade it just the way they always have, or just the way they would. There's a grading rubric, but then our OASIS assessors go in and they fill out a secondary rubric for that particular writing assignment. And then students are placed, every student is placed into some type of intervention. That's either going to be, if they score below a certain threshold on that rubric, they'll be placed into an instructor-led writing course. So we're currently revising the current iterations of our graduate writing 1 and 2 courses, and that'll be the instructor-led course. Or if they score higher on the rubric, they'll be placed into a self-paced writing course. So they'll still go through a lot of the content, because we know writing assessment, it can be triggered. Like, I think it can capture a lot. It can tell us a lot about what students need, but we always need to remember that any writing assessment is a situational assessment. So it's happening at a particular point in time and in a particular context and situation. And so it's not necessarily as powerful of a tool for telling us what students' potential is, right? Writing assessment can't tell you anything about a student's ability to improve their skill set. It can only tell you, here's a current skill set in a particular context. And so that self-paced course, I think, is really a great way to help students think a bit more critically about, okay, I might not need this right now because I scored pretty well on this written assignment, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to need these more scaffolded, sort of more advanced resources as I move through my program. So I think that's a really great thing about this pilot, is that, again, no matter how a student scores, they'll have access to that material, even if they don't need it right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I put in the notes that, we hear students all the time, well, I got a 4.0 and now I'm being told my writing is weak and blah, blah, blah. Right. It's like, no, everybody should get the message early that we all can improve as writers, right, and need to keep working on it always.
Right. Yeah. And we've baked into that self-paced course a lot of the Writing Center assessments that they have on, skill assessments they have on their website. So those are baked in, right? So students, again, are prompted like, hey, just because you did well on this assignment, doesn't mean you're set for the next 4 years. You still are going to have to continue that skill improvement.
We never stop learning, unfortunately. Okay, we did have a call out for masters. So why don't we go to masters next?
Okay, so here's our master's student. This is Randy. After working in the business field for 22 years, he's decided to change his career. He's going back to school for his master's, and he's currently working part-time so he can earn his degree early. But he's worried his writing and research skills are a little rusty, and he heard that APA has changed completely. The last time that Randy was in school, it was at a brick and mortar with physical journals and books. So how do you even access these resources online? So what we have here are 5 research profiles that were developed by the Association of College and Research Libraries that are easily translated into not just researcher profiles, but student profiles. So in other areas of OASIS, so writing skills and academic skills in general. Now, master students should be arriving to us as assignment researchers. So an assignment researcher is a low investment. You know, they just want to get the work done. They can do the work to get it done. They're able to find research they need to complete an assignment. And they can effectively write out that assignment at the undergraduate level, all the while balancing a work-life balance, taking care of themselves, and managing to do this without any overt stress or conflict. However, what we're finding, most of our masters are coming in as a guided researcher. They need additional help. They're learning the basics and they're leaning heavily on assistance. They didn't learn these skills as an undergrad, or it's been a long time since they were in school. So they need that refresher. And what we want to do, we want our master's students to become domain learners. So a domain learner is much more committed to the field. They are more invested. They are learning more about the key figures and terminology in their field. They're aware of important journals and research that is being published, and they are writing at a master's level. So how are we going to get them there? Well, the journey for Randy's student success is threefold. The first one is targeted academic support. We have those transitional courses to ease him into that student role. We have master level writing courses, help with math and statistics, and even help with Microsoft Office and support. A lot of these students are coming in not as tech savvy as they might need to be. So they were at a brick and mortar before. They didn't need to have all of this, but now they do. They need to be able to access different things. And we do have those help for them so that they can become an online student, and not only become an online student, but thrive as an online student. For the research and writing skills, we have one-on-one appointments with librarians. We have paper reviews where they can submit their paper in to be reviewed for help with their writing. We have APA resources. And we also have live office hours and group advising for research as well. And for emotional well-being, we can provide students with a number of resources. We have peer mentors, and peer mentors are wonderful for help with time management, school life balance. They can share their experiences. We even have one session where they were talking about imposter syndrome, which is something that kind of talks a little bit of what about Jada, about the low self-efficacy that a lot of students have when they come back to school. And this is a great resource for them to talk to people who have been there, who have lived through it, and are now succeeding. We also have resources to help them with success strategies for studying, reading skills, mindset and wellness programs, as well as even help working with group work and communication. Because again, communicating online is a lot different than communicating face-to-face, which a lot of these students are used to. So these are all up, and these programs that we have come in all different shapes and sizes. We have live events, synchronous events. We have modules, short videos, static guides, emails, and all of these resources are available to students 24 hours a day. And that will bring us to our undergraduate.
Brings us to our undergraduate. And our undergraduate is Nina. And Nina has been busy raising her family, but now her children have reached the teen years. They're a little less reliant on her. And so she finally is in a place where she can pursue her own career dreams at last. And this is a situation not uncommon. We know our Walden demographic skews over 50% to women, and a very common issue for women is, again, balancing the family needs and career needs. So Nina's situation is hardly going to be a rare one for our students. In her case also, and again, commonly for Walden, she's a first-generation college student. And that means, she may be unfamiliar with how colleges work, how universities work, how are they structured? Where does she go to ask for, particular kinds of questions? What is a registrar? What is a bursar? Where is the library at an online university? So she has a lot of questions and a lot of concerns about academic culture and function and how she's going to navigate, all of this very new environment that she's going into. And as she does get started, she knows that as a college student, she's going to be expected to do research, and that she'll need to write as a scholar. But what does that mean exactly? What are these expectations? And especially, what does it mean in an online environment? How is that going to be different than, the kind of writing and reading that she may do already and that she's familiar with? So for undergraduate students like Nina, it's very important for us to provide fundamental skill support. And we do that. We have within the library, we have basic skills instruction and tutorials available 24 hours a day, along, of course, with our library collections for any kind of resources that she may need to locate for her coursework. And we have our Ask Librarian and Ask OASIS service where she can ask specific questions that she may have about this work. We have a lot of academic skill and cultural support, which is probably one of the most significant things for an undergraduate like Nina. Again, just helping her, get into this culture, understand what's expected of her, and start to become more comfortable with it. So things like understanding, what do we mean when we talk about scholarly voice? What are the expectations for writing? How do you stay organized? How do you stay motivated? How do you overcome doubt and foster a growth mindset? So to foster your resilience and your persistence and the confidence to know that you can do this, even if it all seems very new and overwhelming. Writing skills, top 10 writing tips for undergraduates, and videos for things like understanding assignment prompts. When you're in the assignment and they are asking you to do this, what does that mean? How can you respond effectively? How can you write effectively in that course setting so that you're getting your point across and responding well? And we do have a CAEX course too on academic integrity, again, specifically aimed at undergraduates, and so that they understand what some of these expectations are if they need that in a particular course setting. But, I think one of the more important parts of understanding all of this skill support is our strategy within OASIS to deliver this. Because an undergraduate such as Nina may not be comfortable with knowing where is the library in an online university, or having to go out to all of these various places to find skill support. We really want to make this content and support readily available to students. And so we do have a focus on having content embedded in courses right at that point of need, so that she's not having to figure out, when do I go to the library to do something? We like to have content included in courses and work on wording of assignments so that she is aware of the support that's available to her. We also have our OASIS websites that we have launched for our degree level focuses. We have an undergraduate site that has this content available to her, and this is all linked now in our Canvas course rooms under academic skills support. It'll bring you to an OASIS page, and students there can choose their degree level to find the content that's going to be most relevant to them. And so it's all about, again, supporting a student in a way that is really tailored to them, is comfortable for them, does not feel like remediation, but just feels like support, is understanding some of the challenges that they may face and offering it to them in a timely way to help them progress and feel more comfortable. So those are all of our student journeys, and definitely, everything that we have prepared to talk about today, but we are happy to take questions or continue this conversation. Again, whether you're typing in chat or feel free to unmute, any questions that you'd like to ask right now while we're here together.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, well then, if there's no questions, we have references on our slide deck and the final slide for Lita.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is great information. I've already received some requests for a copy of today's session, a link to it. So I did place that in the chat. Also, if you have any questions or maybe you just misplaced the link later on today, please reach out at our email at otle@mail.waldenu.edu. And thank you so much to our presenters and also for our attendees. Great to have you all.
Thanks all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.